Hi, my name is Stephanie Maha. I am an American who's been living in Germany since '96. I am 55, middle-aged. I'm a white woman. I have beautiful gray streaks in my hair, kind of average height, average weight, kind of average person on that level. And I'm sitting on a chair in a garden with a lot of green. Spring is here. Maybe in the far distance, the Oder River. And yes, I'm wearing a plaid wool shirt with a big heavy scarf because it's cool, and good old work shoes that are red and dirty. That's me. I am now resting by the pond, looking up at the sky. And I came to Berlin in '96 because it was too exhausting to try to live in San Francisco or New York or the United States. And it was the most interesting place I found. And it was a lot of movement happening, a lot of free space, a lot of underground spaces, a lot of empty space. Nothing like I'd ever seen before. And I was very welcomed from the dance community. People were very interested in whatever kind of release technique and work I was doing. And then I ended up in Brandenburg, in Stolzenhagen. In the middle of the winter, I was called, said, come look at this place. And I drove in with my friend. We looked at it and we drove back out. It was so horrible and ugly and cold and bleak and destroyed and a ruin, and it was filled with, anyway, but I stayed. I had lots of opportunities to do other things in beautiful places. Like I thought Barcelona sounds good. So does Italy. Too conservative, so somehow continued to come back because of the dynamics of, I don't want to use the word alternative, but I would say alternative lifestyles and living, and especially, yeah, the support of the German government for the arts. Incredible. That's pretty incredible. So that's why I'm here in Brandenburg still. Supported and slightly exotic, as Germany here is, I think, still pretty exotic. The East is interesting.
Askelta säikkyy, hän ääntä jo karkaa. Kun kutsut hän pelkää, kun huudat hän hymyy ja silmänsä leppien halki vain hymyy. Peto on minun armaani, vaan petosoma. Ei tahdo hän olla pyytäjän oma.
I would say that my fascination with putting art and performance and creative work in the countryside is that it still has a slight urban edge, that it still is not sinking into the landscape, that it no longer has a kind of an abstract and or a little friction, or it's still referenced towards really where people come from. We're not really a regional project working with the villagers all the time. They do join us, but it is an urban getaway, and all these political issues and the way that we survive, they stream into people unraveling, having really space around them, the color green, really being somewhere where you can breathe, and that you can't consume constantly. This brings out some very nice juxtaposition, I think, in the work that people try to make here, or they assume they can work in the garden all day, but to make a good piece of work, yeah, maybe they only weeded a small patch of weeds, and then the rest of the day is spent making their beautiful installation. But it's still this mixing, and you see the edges still of people arriving from urban city to land, and how they shift their perception and how they can use what's there. In the short moment, most people are in transition somewhere onto somewhere else.
Most people pass through here to go to the big stage or somewhere international where they can really show their work, but it's a very good research ground. Standing on the veranda of the Krushtal Studios. I do not have a pink Akushraga. I have instead some old vines that were growing from last year. And we're at the entrance of a big studio that used to be filled with hay, and it was the cow barn of the LPG, this farm here, and it was really, the cows were here for a couple years when we were here, but they're gone. But the dance community pretty much built this beautiful studio that we're walking into. The white floor, the beautiful old beams. It's 300 square meters. It has a new loft that we name after Kathleen Hermsdorf, who was an incredible, integral part of this project. And this place has held some beautiful events. And the lovely thing is the ceiling is still the same as it was. They didn't have to change that, but so it's old wood, round wood, and we have 3 heaters hanging from the ceiling, and it's quite a beautiful renovation that was supported also by extra help from these Corona times. So, but it's been a long process since 2000, taking the hay out, building the floor piece by piece, and it's a very lively, beautiful theater space. This whole place, or audience, I would say, used to be based on an international, especially focused around San Francisco and New York. There was a strong network between San Francisco artists here that built the place. And it's young people, usually anywhere from 20 to now 50, they're spreading into the older years, who have an obsession with the body. They could be going in any direction around making, but I would say an embodied practice, dance, some kind of performance art, theater, whatever that might be, visual arts, installation. So this place draws young people there, and also, of course, they love the garden and this idea of community. Because we live together and eat together, but mostly we move together. Beautiful photograph of the Black Mountain College faculty, and maybe it's fake, maybe it's real, but I would say our lineage is deeply and directly connected to some of these people. Germans, Americans, Merce Cunningham, John Cage, Gropius, so lots of dialogue in there how we could map ourselves to Black Mountain College, but we do it, an experimental land, art, working community of people who made art. And it collapsed, of course, under the pressures of development and probably capitalist growth, which we're also facing at this point, questions about survival. So, yeah, very beautiful group of people, our ancestors. I need people who are willing to let go of heavy, intense mental concepts about how to work or create or what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, or collaborators who kind of don't overplan and have like a list of 3 pages. In reality, we're going to do 2, but that's fine. But if they get very attached to not completing some fixated idea about what we would make or not, I love people who have a sense of humor. I love people that have a really, it's like a strong background in something that they really spend a long time, whether it's their knowledge around politics or philosophy, that they come with something at the table. Their that's always so satisfying, because I think I'm a different kind of collaborator or artist, so it's good to have this meeting ground. I love people that are really in their body, or at least not afraid, or at least they can expose their fear and dive in to some real experimentation, whether that's the work we make or not. I love people that aren't afraid to get a little dirty, sweat a little. I love people that just also will cook dinner for everybody, so that yeah, they're not afraid also to step in and don't take themselves so important or separate from a group that they can't rejoin. I think those are all some things on my list around collaborators. And I guess, of course, I'm hoping people would trust the chaos and have some flexibility about sticking it out to find out what we are, and not assume too quickly what this place is or who it is, because it really changes depending on who's here. Last but not least, I want to thank also Uri Kaiser, who was some of the instilling force to create a nonprofit, and he's also had a version of what this place could be. And as we go more regional now with Corona, and we go into the future possibilities and the uncertain possibilities of how to create art here outside Berlin, we're looking for, of course, the residencies of artists coming of all disciplines make sense. Being in the land, being in the garden, being in relationship to the national park. We're really looking for other networks. We have a new project called Liebken in our neighborhood, not far away, that are a bunch of young artists, visual artists that we hope to connect with. And more, we make the invitation now and continually to bring in new people that might see the place in a new way that we can't see anymore. So yeah, I think that's welcoming and an invitation to check us out. Thank you. And I think you have to be willing to not be too perfect, or like do things kind of half-assed. Not always finish things, because you'll never get anything done.